Folks, it's great to be here today. I have Erik Reagan. How you doing today?
Doing well, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I remember talking about this book, the very first session. This was a long time ago, and I loved the concept immediately. Who is it? Is it C.S. Lewis or somebody who is attributed with saying like, good is the enemy of great, or Jim Collins or something?
Collins is definitely a big teacher of that. Yeah, it's like woven into us as entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, it is. And yet you say goodness over greatness. I know every perfectionist out watching this or who will watch the replay is cringing. I'm even cringing a little.
Right.
I'm
How does
even
it feel in
cringing.
your heart, Carrie, as you say goodness over greatness?
Yeah, listen. I'm curious, man. This title is gonna just stop people in their tracks and be like, what? Because we don't hear it. So what does it mean?
Yeah, the short version is, as I've chased my own versions of greatness over time, I've had to learn that it can't come at the expense of my goodness.
Mm,
And so when I say goodness, I'm really thinking about the overlap, the convergence of two things: my character
mm.
and my well-being. So
Wow.
as I chase greatness, as we chase greatness, I want us to have a framework, have systems, have habits, checkpoints that help us reinforce goodness along the way. So rather than if those two things are ever in tension, rather than having to choose greatness over that character, that well-being, as I call goodness, to build the greatness on top of a foundation of goodness.
Well, I can tell you what. The domain name's available, I'm sure it was, or
It
maybe
was.
it was because nobody in the world wants goodness over greatness, but everybody does. And here's what I mean by that. All my kids are different, but I have one kid that is right now in final season,
Mm.
and is really struggling for greatness. And I keep telling this child, I'm like, just do your best. We don't need it to be perfect. Like you can tell, like sleeping, and so I do think there is this common thing of like the hustle culture, the
Yeah.
cold plunge culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what
Yeah.
does that cost?
Absolutely, and the challenge is it's not a cookie cutter answer. We each have our own version of that, our own answer, and that's
Mm,
part of what this book is after. Is I'm trying to help people unearth what does goodness look like for them in their own pursuit of greatness. Because the way I think of greatness might be different from you, Carrie, but we both are aspiring toward it. We're chasing it. We're going after it, and we also similarly have our own foundation of goodness. We need to build that on top of.
well, I love contrarian books. This is
Hmm.
definitely caught my attention right out of the gate. So you just got done from your TEDx. I saw pictures on
Yeah.
social media. What what happened? Like what was this about, man?
Yeah, the TEDx thing was fantastic timing. When we started this book project together last year, I was committed when January hit that I was going to have a theme this year of focused momentum.
Mm,
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Shiny objects distract me every day.
yeah.
So I knew I needed to really focus on getting this book into the world finally. And TEDx came up in my area, TEDx Savannah, and it seemed like a natural theme. The theme was unleashing curiosity, or curiosity unleashed. And curiosity plays a big role if you're going to flip the script on how we think as entrepreneurs, putting goodness over greatness. You have to be curious if you're going to consider that type of
Mm,
reframe. And so I said, how can I bring this not just to entrepreneurs, which is the book is for entrepreneurs, but how can I bring it to a general audience as well? And Carrie, it was so much fun just finding the right message to bring to that group. It was just last week as we record this or as we stream this. And the audience and the engagement, the reactions people had, it was like a conversation because you get the and the oh reactions to certain lines,
yeah.
and it was clear as I went through, just 10 minutes of a TED talk that there's some stuff that was really resonating with entrepreneurs and people who aren't entrepreneurs.
Well, even a TED Talk, like you think about that. People could have greatness as the goal. And greatness as the goal might mean dropping all kinds of other priorities and becoming obsessive and anxious, panic attacks. Like, you see how greatness, if it's a goal, instead of goodness along with it or even over it. What if, I know you're a high-powered executive coaching, that's your whole model, and you do great work, but like, where have you seen the cost with maybe CEOs or just non-CEOs too, like in the world today?
Man, the biggest pattern is I guess two: health and relationships.
Mm,
And if you think about the word cost, it's a pretty neutral word. If I want to buy a car, it costs me something. Ideally, I have the means to pay for it when I buy it.
mm,
My greatness, my pursuit of greatness, is going to cost me something, and ideally, I have the means to pay it.
mm.
However, a lot of us chase greatness and we try to pay for greatness with the cost that we can't actually afford. And when that stretches us beyond the realm of discomfort and growth and gets us into burnout and overreach, that's where our health often gets hit, our relationships, whether it's a spouse, kids, friends, other family. Those two areas are often hit the hardest, and those can be hard to recover from.
Wow.
The health in particular.
Let's talk about health for a moment, because
Yeah.
it's something that I take seriously.
Right.
Um, you know, Last night, 40 miles
I see you out
cycling.
there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, cycling. But I mean, seriously, when I was out there, part of me is loving it. Part of me is like, I'm 48. I'm thinking like, dude, this is tough, Like, it
Hmm.
was tough. Like, it wasn't a chill ride.
Yeah.
And health is sleep. Like,
Yeah.
health is a thing. Like, you can't just be like, I'm gonna fall into health.
Right.
What I'm saying? Like, it's a battle.
Yeah.
What you drink, right? What you drink every day, like these micro choices. How is your book going to help people with the micro choices?
Mm. I happily lean into James Clear because he's verbalized some of this stuff in really great ways over the past 5-10 years as he's worked on Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And really, he talks about how we don't rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems. And so if you have a system where, whether you want to do it or not, you are putting in the miles on your bike, whether
Mm,
you want to do it or not, you're drinking a certain amount of water,
sure.
consuming a certain amount of nutrient supplements, vitamins, sun outside. If you have this built into your life, your systems, then you're going to have a more sustainable chase at greatness.
I
And
That's so good. That's
yeah,
so
and so part of the book, the goal is to help you actually understand what you want and what you don't want, which sounds so simple, but it's not easy to define in many cases. And then understand what in your life is actually helping you towards those things and what is actually preventing you from getting to those things that you want,
mm,
or away from the things that you don't want. And like a lot of great books that I have devoured over the years, they're just words on a page
yeah.
until the reader does something. And so
Wow.
I've put some words on a page, and really look forward to hearing about readers just doing the things.
That's interesting. There's a fellow bald guy that I met last summer. Okay. And we were
He
teaching,
already sounds great.
yeah, we were teaching these young kids entrepreneurship. And I
Hmm.
remember looking at this guy. His name's Tunji. He's from Africa. He's a cool dude. And I said, "Oh man, I forgot to shave my hair the last couple of days, man. I said I got to do that." And he said, "Carrie, you're going too fast." And he said, when he might have not even shot me down. I think he didn't even shoot me down. I think he said, I don't even think he shot. I think he said, "Hey man, when I forget to shave my head, I'm going too fast." And I
Yeah.
took it as like, dang, I gotta, like, because then he was at a
Yeah.
camp. It was at a camp. There's, you know, young people. It's a lot of. But I thought that's interesting, man. That he put a little
Hmm.
trigger in his mind that said a certain thing, like shaving his head, a habit. He was triggered to say, "I'm going too fast. I'm pursuing greatness
Yeah.
over goodness." Do you think there's other triggers that we can put in our life, Erik, that whether it's devotions, journaling, I don't know, what do you put in your life?
Yeah. That's such a, I love that example just to start off. You might be able to tell I can't relate to that specific example of shaving my head.
But maybe your beard.
You know, I think about, let's not go there. Let's not shave
All
that
right,
off.
all right, all right.
So it reminds me of Charles Duhigg, who wrote The Power of Habit. He talks about this idea of keystone habits that have this kind of cascading impact into so many other areas of life. And so for me, this might sound silly. A lot of keystone habits in our lives can feel silly. But I know that if I haven't cleaned my kitchen well on a Sunday, that the rest of the week I'm going to struggle. My wife and I both are going to struggle to stay on kind of the path that we want to with certain meals that we want to, that we say we want to make. So if I start the week that way, a lot of other things seem to fall into place.
That's interesting.
If I don't start that week that way, it's an uphill climb to actually like cook the meals we bought stuff for the time we thought we wanted to, or stick to certain other habits around the house as a whole. So that's kind of a keystone family habit for us.
That's interesting.
With this goodness and greatness kind of paradigm, one of the things that I talk about in the book is what I call greatness traps. These are things that can look really appealing from the outside, but if we aren't thoughtful and careful, we get stuck focused on those things, which really end up inhibiting us from really getting to the thing we're after when it comes to greatness, but they also cost us our well-being along the way. And so as an example, one of the greatness traps is saving that kind of becomes hoarding. Maybe we feel like if we have a big enough stockpile of cash, that is part of our path to greatness. We have this sense of security, whether it's a business savings account or a personal savings account, that can feel secure. It can feel great, and it can be part of what we might define as greatness. But I think that if we're not careful, that can just turn into hoarding.
Yeah.
Hoarding money that we should be reinvesting in the business, hoarding money that we could be pouring into our community in different ways. So this idea of greatness traps is almost like this keystone habit. If I can be cognizant of different traps along the way, and of course we don't have time to get into all 18 that I write about in the book, but if we can be cognizant of these greatness traps, those can be good visual reminders or indicators. Maybe the trap is I had to rush to shave my head today, or I didn't shave when I expected to. It might sound silly to say it, but like a keystone habit, it can have this kind of cascading impact if we think about it.
That's powerful. Wow. Now, what is your background? So, I mean, you do obviously, I'm looking at your bio here. I mean, you do branding, and that was your business. That is your business, Focus Lab, and then leadership development.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a tie to EOS? I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah. My brand agency runs on EOS. We've been on it for years and love it.
See, that's it, man.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So branding to leadership, how are they intertwined? What do you if somebody's like, man, I like this guy, Erik, he's got a cool beard, but he's telling the truth too.
Well, man, let me tell you that they don't intertwine for me. And I kind of described the journey in the book as I started this business in 2010, and I was a developer, a coder. I was building websites, and I had a partner who was a designer. Over time, our agency, Focus Lab, grew to become a kind of B2B focused branding agency.
Okay.
When we made that pivot into just being a branding agency only, I was at the helm, I was the CEO, and I realized that, well, I was really coming up as a coder. I don't really know a ton, honestly, about branding. That was sort of his side of the business. I really need to go immerse myself in this to be a good steward of this business and this role as the visionary and CEO, because it felt like that's what was right. As I thought more about that, Carrie, I realized I don't really I mean, branding is so valuable, but it doesn't excite me. I don't like the idea of having to go get excited about it.
Wow.
And then as I took off that CEO hat and I put on the owner hat, and I realized that CEO, that guy's maybe not the right guy anymore if we're making this pivot.
Wow.
So the way that the branding is connected to the work I do today is that I let go of the branding business. I said to my co-founder, hey, Bill, I think it's time for you to be the visionary and the CEO. And
Gee.
I just slowly fired myself from different jobs until I got into what I do now, which is just full-time coaching and peer facilitation groups with other entrepreneurs. There was
That's
one thing that got a really just emotive reaction in the TED Talk, a question that helped me that I shared with the audience, which was, what in my schedule this week would I be relieved to see get canceled?
Oh, that's deep. Hold on. Tanisha's going to write that down. What in my schedule this week, if it got canceled, I would be relieved?
And the unfortunate reality is that for me, when I was CEO, the answer was most of my week.
That's deep.
So as I really wrestled with that reality, I kind of admitted that I wasn't in the right job and eventually wasn't even in the right business. So there was a lot of soul searching. And so then the inverse of that was, well, what on my calendar am I excited about? And the things that were exciting me were always one-on-one or small group conversations with entrepreneurs.
Wow.
So that's the thread I pulled. And
That's
that eventually led me to starting this other business where that's what I do. I just work with other entrepreneurs, other business owners, to help them develop and grow the business, but also the life that they want. And emphasis on well-being for me in particular, because I've seen too many friends burn out, too many friends with relationships that are just in the tank, and I just wanted to be a resource to them. So,
So if somebody says, "Hey, listen, this is speaking to me," yes, the book is fantastic. It's the best $9.99 ebook, $14.99 paperback you could ever get. And if they say, "I want to reach out to Erik, I know your website's getting all fixed and everything, but what? You're on
yeah.
LinkedIn, your other places too?"
Yeah, Erik, just Erik Reagan, Erik, if you're just listening. Reagan spelled like Reagan, which some people in my family say it both ways, so I don't sometimes know what to say, how to
Is it?
pronounce my name.
Okay.
But I'm using the same handle on all the platforms, so that's, you can go to erikreagan.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Erik Reagan, and we can just connect. Carrie, I know that you're deeply woven into the strategic coach world and other communal areas of entrepreneurship, and that's one of the things that so many entrepreneurs have yet to discover. They're out there doing it alone, and they haven't scratched that communal itch that they maybe don't know how to phrase, or they don't know what to call it. So finding a community is so important for entrepreneurs, and maybe that just starts by connecting with me on LinkedIn, and we just start a conversation.
Yeah.
That phrase, "It's lonely at the top." If it's lonely at the top, we've done something wrong as an entrepreneur. So
that's it. Yeah, I mean, even today I was, messaging a few fellow entrepreneurs, and a lot of collaboration going on, and I think you're right, man. So the title is amazing. I could see this being a tattoo.
hey, there you go.
I really could, because I mean, I saw your book on one of your pages. Don't you have tattoos?
I don't. That was not my arm, but
That
it
was
was.
not-
There was some ink on that arm.
Because here's a thought, man. I think it could be goodness with a line.
Yeah.
Greatness. I mean, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Bono
Let me
says,
know when you get it.
Yeah, go, yeah. I might get it right here. Bono talks about vision over visibility, and
I like
he
that.
says he wants to have vision personally over being visible. I think you're onto something here. So folks, let us know in the comments. Share this with somebody. Who do you know needs to hear that? Listen, greatness is not the ultimate. Greatness at the expense of goodness is toxic. Erik gives us this plan: 18 greatness traps. Erik Reagan. I love it. So any final words that you want to say to the people?
No, I think that the gist is greatness is great. I'm not trying to say not to chase it. I think we should chase it if that's the hunger that's in us. Just make sure that it's not at the expense of our goodness, that well-being, that character.
All right, folks, you're going to see this a lot of places. Share the word, get this book out. I think the world honestly would be a better place if we had that locked in. So thanks so much for being here, Erik, today.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.